Hope Help for Struggling Strawberry Mansion High School. Strawberry Mansion High School, where 94 security cameras line the hallways and metal detectors are posted at every door, was once considered one of the most dangerous schools in the country. Located in a poor Philadelphia neighborhood with a high crime rate, Strawberry Mansion consistently appeared on Pennsylvania's Persistently Dangerous Schools list, but for the first time in 6 years, that's no longer the case. We're off Persistently Dangerous list. We're very happy about that, said Principal Linda Clyde-Wayman. So we know we have a system in place that can curtail the violence. We know that. In a special ABC News Hidden America report on the school that aired in May, Diane Sawyer and ABC News producers followed the daily lives of the school students and faculty, including its new principal during the 2012 to 2013 school year. School officers said they watched for razor blades in tin foil and knives in backpacks. Some students had to empty their pockets before being cleared to go to class. It was Clyde-Wayman's first year as principal, the fourth principal for high school in as many years. When ABC News' special report aired, there had been 49 incidents during the school year, from fires to teacher attacks, reported in or near the school. ABC News cameras captured students brawling in the cafeteria and being bullied, as well as students who shared their dreams of going to college but couldn't afford to. But after the special, a tidal wave of generosity from viewers helped breathe new life into Strawberry Mansion. Money donated by viewers helped to pay for school uniforms and to provide 13 scholarships for seniors heading off to college, as well as basic necessities that were missing at Strawberry Mansion, including books, notebooks, and calculators. ABC News went back to Strawberry Mansion for the first few months of the 2013 to 2014 school year and caught up with students and faculty. Principal Clyde-Wayman is back for a second year. It is a school that is still close to the edge. Brutal fights break out at times and citywide budget cuts have made an impact. There are fewer teachers this year, and class sizes have doubled. Fewer guards and police patrol the hallways. It's very hard. Guys opening up these schools with no people. We still can't cover the floors, she said. When they get rigged up, they'll realize that there's nobody, and that's what I'm worried about. ABC News also checked back with a few of the students who were profiled in our May report. Christine, a graduating senior at the time, had been accepted to Philadelphia University but couldn't afford to go. After the special aired, the university waived her tuition. Malaysia, the freshman who said she was bullied a lot, is now a sophomore at Mansion trying to stay on track. Razak, another freshman last year who took great pride in his junior ROTC uniform, left the school and is now living outside Philadelphia with his father. Although he is no longer her student, Clyde-Wayman still mentors him. There are signs of hope and vitality. For the first time in the school's 62-year history, it has a football team, the Strawberry Mansion Knights. It just reminds people that we're here and that we're legitimate and that we're still a school. We're still running and we still have a lot to offer to all of our students in this neighborhood, in this community, said Evan Cramp, who was a new history teacher last year. The Knights suffered a setback when their quarterback was suspended, but sophomore Jai Kwan stepped up and played quarterback and running back. The team was undefeated in their first season. Football keeps me out of trouble. I ain't thinking about the streets or nobody else. I'm just thinking about football, he said. But now since football season's over, I'm just going to the gym every day, lift weights, get bigger for my 12th grade year next year. Because like I'm trying to go to a good college. After the ABC News special aired, Grammy-winning hip-hop artist Drake reached out to see how he could help. I caught this piece that Diane did and I was like by the end of it, I was so heavily affected that at the end I started questioning like major aspects of my life. Drake said, it just really changed a lot about me. So when Drake's World Tour landed in Philadelphia, he met with Mansion students at the concert hall. For a school that didn't have the funding for choir teacher that year, Drake gave them a huge surprise. I wanted to let you know that in the next few months I'm building a recording studio inside your school. So anybody that's interested in music, anybody that wants to rap, sing, I want to encourage you. I want to encourage you to utilize that facility and try to make whatever dreams you have to come true, he told them. Clyde Wayman remains dedicated to making Strawberry Mansion a better school. At the Pennsylvania Conference for Women last month, she gave the keynote address alongside Hillary Clinton and Madeleine Albright, in which she talked about the struggles at Mansion and said this nation must invest in the education of all its children, if they are going to remain the wealthiest country on earth. When I was asked to participate in this conference, I first thought it was not real. Why would anybody want me to speak in the same forum as Hillary Clinton? I'm only a principal, she said. But the 6,000 people listening to her speech gave her a standing ovation. Clyde Wayman's message is about reality, which she knows resonates outside her world, and she won't stop motivating her students to hope for success. I might not be able to get them into Harvard. I may not, be able to give them anything materialistic, but I can give them some hope, and God, don't underestimate the power of hope, she said, because when children have hope, they can succeed. Face transplant thriving 2 years after operations. The nation's first full face transplant patients are growing into their new appearances, literally. Medical imaging shows new blood vessel networks have formed, connecting transplanted skin with the patient's facial tissue, a finding that may help improve future face transplant surgeries, doctor announced Wednesday. Dallas Wiens, the first U.S. man to get a full face transplant. Transplant is a remarkable example for that success. The 28-year-old Fort Worth man attended Wednesday's annual meeting of the Radiological Society of North America with his new wife and golden retriever guide dog. Despite still visible facial scars from the March 2011 surgery, he looks and sounds like a recovered man. My entire life is a miracle, Wien said at a news conference. His face was burned off in a 2008 painting accident at his church. He was on a cherry picker lift when his head hit a high voltage wire. After surgery, Will lived for 2 years with no facial features and just a 2-inch cyst for a month, until his transplant at Boston Brigham and Women's Hospital. Imaging studies on Wien's and 2 other full-face transplants done at Brigham in 2011 show that a network of new blood vessels have formed just a year after the operations. A 4th full-face transplant was performed at Brigham earlier this year. The same thing typically happens with other transplants, and it helps ensure their success by boosting blood flow to donor tissue. But Brigham doctors say this is the first time it had happened with a full-face transplant. The finding could eventually shorten the operating time for future face transplants. Brigham radiologist Dr. Frank Ribicki said, the operations can take up to 30 hours and include attaching spaghetti-thin arteries in the patient's existing tissue to the donor face. But the findings suggest attaching only 2 facial or neck arteries instead of several is sufficient, he said. Dr. Samir Mardini, a Mayo Clinic expert in reconstructive transplant surgery, said blood vessel reorganization occurs with other types of tissue transplants. Doctors call it neovascularization, and it helps ensure the tissue survival by improving blood flow. It's interesting that they're shown it with face transplants, but it's not a surprise, Mardini said. Face transplants using cadaver donors are still experimental. Fewer than 30 have been done since the first in 2005, said Dr. Branko Bonjovic, a surgeon involved in a 2012 face transplant at the University of Maryland Medical Center. He called the Boston team's findings very reassuring for surgeons and for future patients. We're assuming that these patients will hopefully go on to live productive and long lives, Bojovic said. Wien's life before the accident was troubled, and he says he misses nothing about it except possibly his eyesight. I've learned more about other people and myself being blind, he said. He met his wife, Jamie Nash, in a support group for burn patients, and they were married in March at the same church where Wien's accident occurred. That was a symbolic choice, Wien said. The most life-changing experience I had happened at that church. I felt like the beginning of my new life should happen there, he said. Nash, 30, had suffered severe burns in a 2010 car crash in which she lost control of her car while texting. The couple lives with his 6-year-old daughter and her 2 children. Nash helps him see and he helps her do things that are difficult because her scars stiff-armed. Together, they worked with a foundation. Nash set out to advocate against texting and driving, visiting schools to bring the message to teens. Wien says the work helps make his new life fulfilling. "Our life is incredible," Nash said Wednesday. "We are so much in love." At Wien's, there is life after tragedy. Flights delayed as air pollution hits record in Shanghai. Hundreds of flights were delayed or cancelled on Friday in China's commercial hub of Shanghai as record levels of air pollution shrouded the city in smog, prompting authorities to issue the highest level of health warning. The incident is especially embarrassing at a time when China seeks to build Shanghai into a global business hub on par with the likes of London, New York, and Hong Kong by 2020. On Friday afternoon, the Shanghai government issued its severest health warning as the city's pollution index ranged between 23 times and 31 times the levels recommended by international health officials. In the first such advice since a new health warning system was launched in April, authorities urged residents to stay indoors and asked factories to either cut or halt production. "I don't think it's fit for people to live in this kind of environment," said Shanghai resident Fan Jianjun, 34, who wore a face mask as he walked through the opaque air in the Lujiazhu financial district. "But I have no choice. I still need to work. I can only take preventive measures, but I have no idea whether they work. Air quality in cities is of increasing concern to China's stability-obsessed leaders, anxious to douse potential unrest as more affluent citizens turn against a growth at all costs economic model that has polluted much of the country's air, water, and soil." The government has announced many plans to fight pollution over the years but has made little apparent progress. Most of the flights leaving Shanghai's Pudong International Airport have been delayed. According to the airport's website, Pudong was the world's third busiest cargo airport in 2011. Data from the airport's Console International shows hazardous air pollution forced schools to shut or suspend outdoors activities in at least 2 cities in eastern China on Thursday. Some schools in Shanghai canceled outdoor activities on Friday as well. The unusual noxious haze was caused by several factors, including industrial pollution and auto emissions trapped by cold, windless weather, said Xu Bing, an associate professor at Shanghai's Tongji University. By 700 GMT, the level of PM2.5 particulate matter or tiny particles in the air that are the most hazardous to the health reached a severely polluted 466, according to the Shanghai government's monitoring website, www.semc.gov.cn. A similar measure by the U.S. consulate in Shanghai showed a reading of 503, a level described as being beyond the index on its website. Levels above 300 are considered hazardous, while the World Health Organization recommends a daily level of no more than 20. Teens' bonds with parents affect their sleep. Sleeping habits change when kids enter their teen years in part because of changing hormone levels, but a new study suggests that social ties such as relationships with friends and parents may play a bigger role than biology in influencing teen sleep. Researchers analyzed information from nearly 1,000 adolescents following them from age 12 to 15. The teens answered questions about all aspects of their lives, including their sleep habits, relationships with parents and friends, and involvement in school. Nurses also examined the teens each year of the study to assess how quickly they were going through puberty. During the study, teen sleep decreased from 9.2 hours per night on school nights at the age 12 to 7.8 hours per night at age 15. Teen social ties were much stronger predictors of changes in their sleep patterns than their stages of puberty, the researchers said. The findings underscore the notion that with regard to sleep habits, teens' lives in their totality matters, not just the phase of puberty they're going through, said study researcher David Ma-Yun, a sociology professor at the University of Cincinnati. The study is one of the first to compare biological factors with social factors in terms of their effects on teen sleep. One of the strongest predictors of sleep habits was social ties with parents. According to the study, teens were more likely to get adequate sleep if their parents kept close tabs on their child's activities. Teens generally slept for longer on school nights and had fewer sleep disruptions if their parents consistently set a bedtime. This might seem like common sense, but maybe we need to be a reminder that parents matter in teens' lives, Ma-Yun said. Family stressors also had an effect on sleep. Teens whose parents split up reported sleeping less and having more sleep disruptions than teens whose parents stayed together. Sleep was also influenced by the teens' friends. Those whose friends strived to do well in school and act in socially positive ways had fewer sleep disruptions. These findings reinforce social science theory and research findings suggesting that health is facilitated by individuals becoming embedded in multiple networks of positive associations with key actors in their lives. Ma-Yun wrote in the December issue of the Journal of Health and Social Behavior. Watching more TV was actually linked with longer sleep duration, but also with more sleep disruptions. Increasing computer use was linked with less sleep on school nights and more sleep disruptions. The researchers were not able to include information about what time teens were required to get to school, which likely affects sleep duration. The study also lacked information on how cell phone use affects sleep, but previous research suggests that teens sleep worse when they use technology, including cell phones, at night. why this holiday season should be all you can eat. A study published a little over a decade ago in a New England Journal of Medicine that reported that most of us do in fact gain weight over the holidays. The good news is that the study also found that we gain a lot less than we think we do, with participants guesstimating that between Thanksgiving and New Year's Day, they'd gain just over 31 pounds, but only put on an average of 12 ounces. That we gain weight over the holidays simply isn't surprising. Since time immemorial, food has been used by humanity to celebrate religious holidays and personal milestones. And when celebrating with food, both our portions and our choices tend to differ from the humdrum of our day-to-day. At the end of the day, I've no doubt that everyone who celebrates Christmas has a food or foods that will fit into the sentence. It wouldn't be Christmas without. Similarly, I would tell you that it wouldn't be Hanukkah without latkes, which my wife and I calculated contain roughly 100 calories per thin, tiny potato pancake. But what of people trying to manage their weight? Working for over a decade with folks trying to manage their weights, I can tell you that when I see patients in January, I worry far more about those who lost weight over the holidays than about those who gained. I worry because losing weight over the holidays means that there's a decent chance that those folks felt that they weren't entitled to celebrate, socialize, or find comfort with food. Instead, they felt that their weight management efforts needed to be 35-day-a-year efforts, where calories, points, or portions are always tightly controlled. Putting this another way, these are the folks that've been suffering. Sacrifice and perpetual restriction are the ingredients they need to gather to successfully manage their weight. Of course, if suffering were a sustainable plan, the world would be slim. I'd venture that virtually no one with any significant amount of weight to lose hasn't tried one form of suffering or another to lose, only to regain what they lost when they got sick of suffering. This holiday season, I'd like to encourage you to make it an all-you-can-eat season, an all-you-can-thoughtfully-eat season that is, where the key word there is thoughtfully. Eating thoughtfully means thinking things through the making informed holiday dietary decisions, just like you do when you buy holiday gifts. There are many considerations prior to gift buying. For instance, knowing how much money you make each month, how much is in the bank account, and what your upcoming expenses look like will allow you to more thoughtfully consider price tags. But of course, there's more to a purchasing decision than just a price tag, isn't there? There's also who and what the gift's for. When you last bought a recipient a gift, perhaps what they've purchased for you in the past and when you think you might be buying them a gift next. Dietary indulgences shouldn't be any different. Only here the price tags, at least weight-wise, are calories. Things to include in your dietary decision tree might be how many calories you burn every day, easily calculated by Googling an energy expenditure calculator. How many calories you've had during the holiday season. Maybe now's the time to start a food journaling account. And how many calories are in the indulgence you're considering. Before you sit down to your festive meal tour around Calorie King.